So
Good to go.
yeah.
Hey folks, welcome to the GSP Team Podcast. This is episode number 8. We've got a few topics we want to talk about today. I think we'll kick straight into it with anything you want to talk about first. Will I just start from the top?
Go straight into it.
Okay, so another thing we've been asked is how many comps in a year should people be aiming for? Looking at novice, inters, and opens. So I think we've kind of touched on this a little bit with the novices before, maybe the inters. But like, I don't know, in my view, I think when you're a novice, you should be doing as much as possible to gain as much experience as possible. Now, without completely burning yourself out, obviously, and still allowing yourself to train, not compete every week, eat deload every week, blah, 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 all that stuff. But like, I think most novices could do 5 to 8 comps a year. Easily, yeah. Because realistically, you're just looking to gain experience that year and hoping to go to the inters the following year. And like, I think for every level you go up, you should probably do less a comp or 2 comps less every year.
Yeah.
And when it's time to take it really serious, I think you should be backing it off a little bit as well. Kind of like you two at the moment.
Yeah.
Like you're doing the national qualifiers, doing natural Ireland's strongest woman, Ireland's strongest woman, and then you're going to probably do OSG later in the year, and you might not do much in between that.
Probably not. It'd have to be something special, I think, to pull me out.
Yeah, that's probably you for the year.
Yeah.
And like, as for yourself, you've just done the Giants Live, and you're probably not going to do anything until UK's now.
No, 16 weeks.
16 weeks.
And then SLE qualifier, June.
If you're even going to do that, right?
Well, if I get a good enough performance at UK's, hopefully I won't be able to do it. And then whenever Ireland is and the Giants Live qualifier.
Yeah,
then,
the OSG Europe, is it?
The
Irish OSG or the Irish Giants Live qualifier.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. And like, you're really narrowing it down to all the biggest comps that you can do. Like, you're looking at keeping your national titles, and you're looking to just do internationals, and after that, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like, that's the level you're at. But like, I suppose if we go back down to the other Open, say, I don't know, I don't want to name names, but like guys that are competing Ireland's strongest man, Ireland's strongest woman, that aren't really looking at doing internationals and not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Like, for them, like, what are your thoughts on how often they should compete? I mean, you were there a couple of years ago.
Yeah. I kind of found maybe about 4.
I was going to say about 4
I
or
think
5.
about 4 or 5 comps. I don't think any more than 5, because I think it kind of gets to the point where, like, when you're at like kind of high enough level, like the weights are very heavy, and it's like you're not going to be able to recover as quick as you would doing like a novice and intermediates.
Yeah.
Because like, if you look at like a lot of the people in novice and inters, like they have the physical capabilities to do a lot more, but they just don't have the practice yet. Like, so they can recover quicker from their events.
Yeah.
Whereas like once you kind of get up to the open categories, it's kind of like next day it kind of feels like you've been hit by a car. So it's kind of like you need to like ease just kind of stuff back into it. Like.
I think as you become more advanced as well, you're literally able to tap into using more muscle fiber for all the lifts you do. Whereas the novice and intermediate, there's technical errors there, so they're leaking power, and they can't actually get as much out of themselves.
Yeah.
Whereas you guys, like, you're getting under massive yokes and huge heavy deadlifts, and you know, this stuff really takes its toll on you. Like, it takes its toll on your nervous system. Like,
you need to be doing your building phase as well, like, because you kind of see some people where they may have like a short kind of like building phase start the year, and then they have a competition early on, and then it's like competition after competition, and it's like they're at like maybe like 75-80% throughout the whole season, and they're never really going to get the best out of themselves.
Yeah, I think as well it's understanding which of those 4 or 5 competitions are the most important to you, and understanding you may not perform best for all 4 or 5. You might get lucky, but not necessarily. But that's a kind of a prime number, I think, of saying, okay, you're going to have a nice lead in. If there's close competitions close enough, you can probably combine that training.
Yeah.
And pick the ones that you're going to use for experience versus the ones you actually want to make a really big impact on.
Yeah.
And being select with it that way. But to get that comp experience, I suppose, is the biggest thing. I think some of the things I've seen, like some of the situations probably know more than yourself, Cilléin and Matty, when you've been in a position where it's your experience of being in comp, your seasonedness has actually allowed you to win or take the advantage on a situation versus someone else who may have been able to win that event or something. So getting that comp experience and being
knowing when to push and
when to pull back, when to push, and just the environment of being in comp, because you know, refereeing and being up in front of people, large crowds, small crowds, is one thing doing it in the local gym, but going out then to UK's or something and being thrown into the middle of a giant arena. So
It's nervous, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
I
I
think-
still get nervous anyways.
And I think the mental aspect as well, like if you're training solid for 6, 7, 8 competitions and it's getting heavier because you're in the opens, mentally you get sick of that.
Sick of that, yeah.
You know, you really do. You're like, oh, you end up, I think, being resentful of the sport then for a while. Where when you're a novice and you're new and it's still very fresh, like you do every
fun and
competition.
exciting.
I remember when I first started powerlifting, like I think I did 6, 7, 8 competitions the first 2 years, every year. Like you do everything, the push pulls, the single lifts, the full power, because it's all exciting and you're getting your gains and you're growing.
Yeah.
But then you get to that stage, you just want to pull back a bit and say, okay, that's
it. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, and as well as that, like the more advanced you become, the harder it is to peak for more comps.
Yeah.
So like it takes an awful effort for you two guys to peak, say your deadlift, or it's like if you have 4 or 5 events in a comp, it's going to be 5 or 6 actually events in a comp. To be at your best for all of those events takes a humongous effort. It really does. Like, so you do have to pick a couple of comps a year. For you, it's obviously going to be OSG is the biggest one. You're going to be right at your best at all of them, or try to be right at your best for all of them. And for you, it's probably going to be UKs and Ireland's, or it might be something else as well. We could probably, you're that bit younger, so you could probably squeeze another one in there. Whereas, like, you know, as a master, it takes it that much more again. Like,
even feeling it now, like the problems I'm having with my right shoulder or arm at the moment. When I look back and kind of go, okay, first of all, the bicep's gone on that side, but how much single arm pressing did we have in competition last year?
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Sandbag to shoulder and dumbbell presses in 3 competitions, 2 competitions
2,
I was doing anyway.
They were nearly back-to-back preps.
Yeah, so it's
left you battered.
It's left me bad. So now I'm having to like kind of go this year. What are my actual main goals? What do I want to achieve? And I have to give myself time to fix that issue that I have.
Yeah. So you definitely have to be that bit more selective as an open athlete. Like. And then, like, if we go back down to the novices again, like I think we spoke about this before as well. I think it was one of our first podcasts. Like with the novices, like if we give novice guys, I don't mind them doing 5 to 8 comps a year if they truly are a novice. Like, you know, first year competing, gaining experience, and I wouldn't be taking. They wouldn't be giving them a deload week the week before and after. You know, like you guys that have a light week before the comp, and then afterwards you have a really light week again, just getting blood flowing, getting moving again. I wouldn't do that with them. I would treat the competition as a training day. And much to your point, they're not as battered after. You know, you feel like you're hit by a bus after a comp. They're not quite as bad as that. It might be for a day or 2, but it's more soreness. It's not nervous system complete wreckage like. So I could say they might train Monday, Tuesday, lower body, upper body. Comp of the weekend probably has a deadlift, so we just leave the deadlift for that. And then they do their other 4 events and back training Wednesday again, and they could do 3 days again. So like you nearly have 2 weeks of 3-day week training essentially, like, and then you're back to your 4 days after that if that's what you're doing. And you could do that throughout the year and just slot your deloads in here and there when suitable. Or you might pick 1 or 2 comps that's going to be more important to them and maybe deload that. But realistically, like they could just use them as training days the whole way through. Whereas for yourselves, it's just it's not possible, really, is it? The weights are too heavy. Could you imagine treating joints live as a training day?
No.
And then
It'd be nice if you could.
and me saying, Cilléin, come on, Tuesday evening.
Back in.
We're squatting. Like, not a fucking hope in hell.
No, it would have broke me.
You would have broke me. You'd walk back out the door. I'd say. Same for you, like, you know, if you were doing something big. After Ireland's Strongest Woman, I was like, come on, Tuesday evening, back in heavy again. No way.
So I remember a while ago, I think it was only probably about 4 years ago, I had 3 competitions in like 5 weeks. I can't remember. I remember Static Monsters one, court competition was another one, and then the Service Cup. I think it was all in the space of like 5 weeks. Like, but it was grand. Like I was still competing in the opens because there's no novice or intermediate or juniors at the time. So,
but your experience was essentially novice, wasn't it?
More or less, yeah. I was just like,
you were still learning.
Yeah, hugely. Like, so I could afford to kind of like, you know, like I wasn't going in expecting to win, so it was just more about gaining the confidence with it. Like.
And that's what it was like. And you were doing. I remember them comps. It was different events in them and stuff like that. So you would have took a lot away from that and learned, and that would have benefited you massively going into the following year, where you came 5th in Ireland, right?
After that,
year?
Yeah.
So like that all that gaining that experience that year, and you would have done. Is that the year you've done your first Ireland's where you didn't make the final? And you've probably done something else that year. So you're looking at 5 to 6 comps there, and you were probably, if you're looking at like what we have now with the novice inters or class 1, class 2 as we call it, the inters, you would have fitted into the inters at that stage, or higher end of it.
Probably,
You know, you might have. So there's 5, 6 comps in that year for you, like. And that served you well going into the following year.
Yeah.
When
Yeah, it
you
did.
were actually honing down on a few competitions and came 5th at Ireland. Like that was a really good result.
Yeah, really carried through compared to doing two competitions last year.
2 competitions
And the deadlift. So I guess
was that all it was? Yeah.
Yeah, just UK's and Ireland's.
UK's, Ireland's, and the deadlift.
That's all I did last year. Yeah.
Which is just a deadlift. Like it's not really a full competition, is it?
No.
You did peak for it. In fairness, like
Yeah.
you were ready for it. But yeah. Wow,
So
that's
16 weeks for UK's last year.
Yeah. And then it was straight into Ireland prep after that.
More or less,
Another
it
8
was like
weeks.
6 weeks after that, and then 6 weeks after that was the deadlift, and then
That was your year.
that was the year done there. Yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy when you think about it. That's all I done last year.
Wow,
Like,
that's insane, isn't it? Such
Yeah.
a difference.
yeah, from 3 in 1 month to
Yeah.
3 in a year.
Holy shit. No, you had done the Cerberus Cup in December, hadn't you, the year before?
December.
So-
Oh yeah, December. Yeah.
yeah, but
yeah.
still, like in
Yeah.
2022, 3 competitions.
Yeah, 3 competitions. Yeah,
2 comps and a lift.
unless yeah.
What and you last year? You just done Ireland's,
Oh no, I didn't.
Ireland's,
Highlands, Irelands.
Ultimate Ireland.
Only Ireland.
Only Ireland, yeah.
Yeah. So the original ISW, Ireland's Strongest Woman, then Naturals, then Ultimates,
And then OSG.
and then OSG.
Yeah.
Oh, and I jumped into the push pull, the charity push pull.
The week after one of the other comps, so
Yeah.
it was just yeah.
But of the INSF actually, because I wanted to pull the max deadlift.
Yeah.
I didn't need to do it for comp.
Okay. Yeah.
So
So there's more of it there again. Like whereas a lot of the times with the novices, I'd be saying, lads, push on hard as you can, do as much work as you can in this competition. Let's see where you're at. Whereas INSF last year, you didn't have to pull a heavy deadlift. You just pulled 200 and lifted there.
Yeah.
Won the event and walked away. And you'd be the
Yeah.
same now going to UK's for your next comp.
Yeah.
You'd want to be doing something similar. You don't want to be wasting energy in places you
No.
don't have to.
yeah.
No, absolutely not.
It's actually about reserving yourself as much as humanly possible, and then moving on to the next
Move on
one.
to the next one. Yeah. Again, it's different if you're novice or interest and you wanted to test it, but
Yeah, you're learning,
when
stuff,
you're but when
Yeah.
you're competitive and you want to win,
Yeah.
there's no point. Like
especially at the higher levels.
yeah.
So yeah, I think we've kind of battered that one a fair bit, haven't we? Like, I mean, like novices 5 to 8
Yeah.
times a year, inters
Yeah.
4 to 6 maybe, and then
Yeah.
your opens down to 4, but
Yeah.
focusing on 2. Is that
Yeah.
kind of our general
I
guidelines?
think so. Yeah, you have your actual overall focus, whether
Yeah.
it's a national title and your international performance,
Yeah.
and then maybe 1 or 2
Mm.
in the middle of that.
Yeah. Might
Possibly.
squeeze in 3 peaks, like for
Yeah.
someone like yourself who's a bit younger and not as battered at the moment.
Hmm.
But that's about as much as it would vary up, really, isn't it? That's kind of a good general guideline to go off of.
Yeah.
And from there, then, I mean,
Hmm.
it's down to programming and figuring it out. Like, yeah, I think that's that's pretty much covered that one. Okay, this is another one from Tim O'Donnell. Tim's given us loads of questions and ideas and stuff he wants us to talk about. House train events you don't have kit for, and I've kind of put a subcategory under that. Then the willingness to travel.
That's something that was
Because
raised.
yeah, I mean, like, if you don't have the kit to train events on, right? Okay, maybe not everybody's able to do this, but you got to buy some kit then, and like ask your gym if you can store it in there,
or in your shed,
or
if you have
keep it in your shed and do some training at home. Or I mean, there has to be some kind of figuring out like that. And we spoke about this before. I think we said buy an axle bar, a couple of sandbags, and farmers walks.
Yeah.
You can do an awful lot with all
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely.
And like relatively cheap as well. In the grand scheme of buying gym equipment and everything else, that's not going to cost you an absolute fortune. But you get your moving events in. You can use your sandbag for loading. You can do it for conditioning. Sandbag shoulder carries. You can emulate stone loads with it. To a degree, like.
Yeah.
And then your farmers, you got your grip, obviously, your moving events, speed work, heavy stuff. There's so much you can do with all of that, like
Massive amount. Yeah.
massive amounts. And if you can't do that, you then have to travel.
Yeah.
And there's no ifs or buts about it. Like, we've all been there. We've all traveled.
Like we spoke about this before, I think, on one of the very first podcasts, and we can go back history of time to say before we had GSP here.
Yeah.
So in Galway City Gym, Tony was really good. I think he let you store a yoke and some farmers.
We had a super yoke and farmers, kept in the emergency exit stairs, which is probably totally illegal, like, but
it
he
was-
was sound enough to let
yeah.
us do it. And we kept an axle
An
up
axle.
in the gym,
Yeah.
so we could use that on the deadlift platform.
So that was grand. But when it came to, I remember 2016 when we were training for Winter Wreckage, when we got the invite over there.
Yeah.
Every other weekend we were going up to
every weekend.
Sorry, every weekend. But one weekend would be Ballina, and then the other one would be RV up in Ballymoney, up in the north.
You're mixing that up with another prep, I think.
But either way,
yeah.
we travelled, right?
We travelled,
We
yeah.
travelled. Like we seriously travelled, and it's where those were the only real two places that there was strongman equipment that you could go to. So that's where we went, and we did the training that we could.
Because I think we just spent 10 Sundays like a row on the road, going to gyms, training on specific kit, because we had fuck all here in Galway.
Yeah, we literally had nothing. I remember actually for winter wreckage there wasn't it there a Husafelt?
Yeah.
And Peter Connor made one for us, and we were in his shed. I was telling someone the same Husafelt that we have here that everyone gives out about, that was built especially for us for winter wreckage 2016. And we went out to, it was fucking Baltic out in Uachtarad in that shed. And I remember it coming down on my leg, and I had a scar for 3 years on my thigh from going out to train. But that's what we had to do because we wanted to compete. Yeah. And we wanted to try and like, it wasn't even at that point, it was still very much, we didn't know where, I didn't know where I was going to end up in strongman. This is very early days. Yeah, this was literally 2016. I was still in powerlifting. I still did 2017, I still went into to do a bit of powerlifting. I hadn't actually committed fully, I suppose, to strongman at that point. There
wasn't much to commit to at the time either here.
Because we had very little, and which is another point that can be discussed in a bit. But we had very little places to go, but we travelled and we did what we had to do. And I think if you really want to do strongman, you know, like I've seen some comments like it's too far away. It's like a half-hour drive or a 40-minute drive from me. Like Ballina was an hour and a half. Ballymoney's 4.
Yeah.
Up and down in one day, like to go up and train. So don't tell me that an hour of a drive is too much, even if you were to go there once a fortnight.
Yeah. If you really want to be,
be a
strong man,
and it's not about being the best in it. It's about just being wanting to compete for fun. And like what I love at the moment is the way how we have here now what we've created. We have people doing the same thing that we were doing. They're coming down the motorway and they're coming here to train, not just because there's competitions coming up and they want to train on kit, but because this is where they can come and train strongman in this safe environment. But we have pretty much everything here that you could wish for, and we're at the end of the motorway for most places, and people are traveling. They're doing what we were doing.
People doing 4 or 5 hours, like Donegal, Derry, everywhere, like
coming down to train. And it's been the past few Saturdays here has been massive. Like it's been nuts here, like hopping 10 odd people I think coming down to train on equipment,
on top of our own
crew.
And you respect that a lot of them as well, they're not even open level athletes. Like you're getting a lot of novice and
intermediates. A lot of them are novice and intermediates that just want to get better.
Which is really encouraging to see the fact that they're actually willing to put that effort in.
Absolutely. Because and that does speak to the fact that it's not just the open or elite or experienced people that are traveling. Like we've done our traveling.
Yeah.
We went up to Monaghan last year, so you could just do one event.
Like a 3-hour drive.
3-hour drive.
To flip a tyre, wasn't it?
No, there was a tyre, but it was mainly the Conan's wheel.
Conan's wheel, yeah.
Just
that's right,
yeah. That's literally the only reason we drove all the way up to Monaghan.
Yep.
And 3 hours back.
And it was worth it though, because Conan's went well on the day.
It did, yeah.
But there are people coming down here on a weekly basis to do that. You know, like David Harrington comes to mind. He's about an hour and a half. Is he in Longford? He's down every other week.
Yep.
Who else? Jay was down recently. Tim was up from Cork. Jesus, so many of them now they can't even think. Like Maria and Sharon, how often were they?
Oh my God, they were coming down almost every weekend, every Saturday.
Every Saturday, yeah. Like basically every Saturday.
For like that's 6 hours travel. Plus, we could be in the gym for about 4 hours.
Yeah.
So that's like a 10-hour day for them.
Yeah.
Their whole Saturday was committed to it. They're probably wrecked on Sunday.
Riddled with DOMs. Do you know what I mean? That drive back would be torturous.
Or even Eamon Harford coming down in the morning.
He was coming down
after working a night shift the night before. And then went home and then worked another night shift.
Yeah. There's it's just doing what you have to do to get to where you want to be.
Coming up from Cork.
Neve's coming up from Cork. Yeah. I knew there was there's loads of them.
Neve coming up from Cork.
There's too many.
Yeah.
There's not too many. There's not enough. More of you should be doing it.
Yeah.
But I suppose that's like if you want to do the sport, and not even at an elite level, if you want to, and you will take that, and you will travel, and you will make that commitment, whether it's once a fortnight, once a month, to get that feel, or look at getting some kit and storing it somewhere. Yeah.
Like you don't have to train strongman every single week somewhere else. No. If someone like say you're an hour, 2 hours away from a gym that has strongman kit, get up there every other week and just buy a sandbag and do some sandbag carries and some specific grip work in the gym then. And like you've got your move in there, you got your conditioning with your bag, you could do some specific grip work, and then you just have your overhead with a barbell. And when you go to a strongman gym, just do strongman events.
Yeah.
Again, we like to do our deads and squats before we do events. But if you don't have that option all the time, then I would say go in and start with overhead and get a feel of the log or the dumbbell or whatever is coming up that you need to get a feel of. And then all the other bits you can't get access to, if it's yokes or farmers or Husafels or whatever else. And I would focus on that for that one session if it's only every other week.
And like we put up a post there on Strongman Island during the week, and it was just saying like, where can you train strongman? And the amount of people who don't even have gyms. So like Jack Harkin and Jade was like, we've got all this stuff in a shed, hit us up. Do you know what I mean? Like, so this community is massive now compared to what it was 3 or 4 years ago. And you've got people who have stuff in their shed who are willing to go, come down. Yeah. Hit us up, come down and train with us. So
I think they have
it's not like it used to be.
They have a load of people coming to the shed now on Saturdays. Which is brilliant.
And the more you make those networks now, like I said, we didn't have that community. We didn't have that network of people that there is now with people who have their kit at home as well. Yeah. And I think COVID as well helped with that a little bit, people buying stuff. But, do you know, like there's plenty of opportunities out there, way more than we had 4 or 5 years ago.
Totally, I don't think like the novice and intros really, they can't see where the sports come from. Like, I can see it like from like when I started to now, like how much like more opportunities and like things that like the novice and intros can actually do. Like, so it's just don't like be looking for kind of quick excuses as why you can't do things, because like you're really, really lucky to be getting involved in the time that you are now.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like when you started, you started Strongman, 10 years ago? 10 years?
About 10, 11 years, I think, yeah.
And you were probably going out to Ivan's yard because there was nowhere else.
Yeah, so this is funny actually. So when I first wanted to get into Strongman, there was nothing in Galway. No one didn't know Ivan. And I had bumped into him one time in the gym, in City Gym, and he wanted to get into Strongman. I wanted to get into Strongman. I said, I will train together sometime. Never seen him again for probably a year. In the meantime, I got someone to pick up a 400-kilo tire for me. I made a Husafel that broke in half the first time I dropped it, a concrete one. And I was a hotel porter. I was in college at the time. I was in a hotel porter in the Victoria Hotel. I stole some linen bags, you know, that they put the towels and stuff into.
Disclaimer.
Packed them full of sand. I think I got down to the beach. And as soon as I dropped that, it fucking exploded open in the driveway as well. But like, there wasn't even a website to go on to buy kit.
Yeah.
So, and I was broke. I was a student, and I was doing weekend hotel porter at the time. I was like, right, let me figure this shit out. So, linen bags looked like sandbags, so I robbed them and filled them up with sand. I tried to make it loose as well, and I got that tire. Yeah, and eventually, actually, I got some kid back the road. I don't know how we made some kind of deal. Did I do something for him? He wanted something for me. He could weld.
Yeah.
So he cut up an old gate and made me them black farmer's handles that are still on my mother's that I refused to get rid of because nostalgia. Never used them. Because by the time he got them for me, I had bumped into Ivan again in the gym, and he had gotten a few bits of kit up in his place. So I used to travel from Invern into Galway on a bus, and I'd get a bus then from Ayr Square out to Uchterard or Cilléin, and I go down to his and train, and I was kind of doing them round trips every Saturday for a while. But we only kind of did it leading into comp. So if it was a comp, we might do it for 6 to 8 weeks or something, and then it'd be just gym training again after that. Like, but they're the lengths I kind of went to do strongman when there was nothing. You seen the house like before, there was stones everywhere. Like, so I just picked some random stones up and lift them. Yeah, carry them up and down the driveway. People must thought I was a fucking lunatic. Like,
I'd say they knew that before you were doing that.
Probably, yeah. So yeah, they're kind of the lengths I went to, like when I first got into it. But there was no strongman gyms. Like Ballina was the closest, I think. But I wasn't driving. I knew no one that was into it. No one else wanted to do strongman but me. I had no friends that wanted to do it. Seen on telly, like this is cool shit. Like, had followed it kind of loosely the whole time when I was young. Like, but yeah, it's
and likewise, social media wouldn't have been there to that extent. It would have been around, but not like it is now. Instagram wasn't what it is. So that where you've come from, where we've come from, and what you have today. Yeah. If you want to do the sport, there is no excuses. I think you can pretty much what we're trying to say is you'll make the effort.
If you really want it, you'll find a way and you'll make the effort. Because I really wanted to do it, and there was no way. Like there wasn't, and there wasn't a place to go buy kit. There wasn't a gym, so I just started pulling shit. Like I had no business with a 400-kilo tire. I couldn't flip it to save my life. When I first started training with Ivan, he got 2 stones. I think a 130 and a 145 or something. Neither of us could lift the 130. I think we tried every week until he got it eventually, and I probably got it like a year later. But like the kit was really heavy, and I was just like, You either lift it or you
You
don't.
don't,
You know, his farmers started at like 60 or something like that. There were these weird, I think they were full of water or something inside, about steel things.
Yeah.
The yoke had like 1 or 2 height settings that barely worked for me. So it was like it was like the yoke was skimming the ground as I'd be moving with it. Like, it was not
Rough.
ideal. Like, it was rough, but fuck, man, it was all we had. Like, and we got strong using that kit. Like, you know, Ivan's done fucking great things, and while I was competing out there, I had done some decent things too. And it was what it was. The log, my God, the log was 82 kilos empty. A 10-inch log, I think it was. I couldn't press it for like a year, but goddamn, I tried every weekend. Every weekend I was out there, I tried to do it till I got one on it. Like, and that was it. Things were massive heavy, and it was you lift it or you don't, and this is all we have.
So now, like when you look at it now, like I said, you could go on AliExpress, you could go anywhere. There's,
Didn't know they existed back then. I don't know if they did exist.
But even if you didn't, like they're going, I can't afford this from wherever, there are so many options out there. Lidl's, for God's sake, have stuff that you can actually compromise with. So I'm there literally going, there's no excuse to actually be able to train.
There's the Cerberus, you know, the old style bags that you tie on top. Like, we still sell them on the website. I don't know, I think they're between 55 and 65 quid or something. The adjustable ones,
very handy for people.
Very handy, very
like
cheap. Most people can afford it. Most people piss it up against the wall on the weekend when they're not out. You know, or put it into a fucking couple of shitty meals like that. You know, you probably don't need to have. And that could buy you that and go down to the beach like I did, rub some sand and let it dry out a little bit. Like, you know, there's an option there. Like, and a lot of commercial gyms, I think a lot of them are kind of sound. If they have like a track or something, they might let you store a couple of sandbags.
Yeah, because they're not going to create any damage. Do you know what I mean? And they don't really take up much space.
No. And like that, there's a lot of strongman gyms now. There's a lot of gyms now that just have some strongman kit, like, which is brilliant.
Because you can use them for other sports as well.
Absolutely.
That's the benefit of it.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Sandbag training can be used for anything.
The crossover of it.
Yeah, and like an old sled or a prowler as well. It could be used for drags and pushes for other sports and drags for other sports too. So, yeah, I think the point is, if you want to make it happen, you'll find a way.
Yeah,
and I know we've absolutely just bet the shit out of this subject. I'm talking like mad, but I'm very passionate about it because I know the effort I put in, and I know the effort people around me put in, like yourselves. Like, we've all gone to massive efforts to do what we've done in the sport, or what we're going to do, or what we want to do. And again, when I first started, I had no expectation of being a coach 10 years down the line or 11 years down the line. I was just a guy that liked the sport and wanted to do it. Never thought I wasn't Ireland's strongest man, but I didn't have ambitions at the time of being Ireland's strongest man. I just wanted to flip tires and lift stones and sandbags and stuff, you know.
It's cool.
Essentially, was probably thinking, I don't know, maybe I'll be a novice here. I don't know what I'm going to be like. I didn't know about competitions. But yeah, so if you want to find a way, you'll find a way.
Totally.
Okay, so before I get any fucking more revved up now about the subject, because I'm about to get amped up here. Now this one could amp me up too, actually. So another topic is not avoiding comps that you think you're not ready for, or that you have weak events in. So I think you're someone that could really allude to this from last weekend. You just hopped straight into Giants Live and you weren't ready for it. You weren't training yoke. You weren't. There's so much that was in that competition. You never touched the power stairs. Never. Not just that power stairs. You never touched a power stairs.
Never done a deadlift ladder.
Never done a deadlift ladder.
Still haven't managed to use the deadlift suit properly.
The
load medley was grand. The Viking press, that was just like heavy as well.
But you also weren't like near peak strength.
No, not at all. Like, it's even like the first time I got invited to Ireland, I got asked like 3 weeks before the competition. And the same thing was like the first event at Ireland was a 450 kilo yoke. I think I was 22 years old, about 105 kilos. And I remember I picked it up and I was like, okay, this is actually not too bad. I took one step and I actually thought my spine broke. I think I moved it like maybe like 2.5 meters, like, and then.
Did you move it that far?
I think it was still like,
just pick drop.
Pick drop. And after that, then it just stops. Like, and then I think I got a 300 kilo deadlift that day. It was a PB. And then I got like 7 or 8 flips on a 400 kilo tire. Again, like, I went in with no like expectations. And kind of before that competition, I was like, in my mind, I was just like, all right, I'm just going to stay 105. Like, I'll always just kind of be a novice kind of thing. But when I actually like competed at Ireland's and I was kind of seeing like where everybody else was at and where I was at such a young age, like that kind of made me realize I was like, I've actually got a pretty fucking good chance at this. Like, so you're never going to realize those things if you're just staying so like low down. Like you got to like put yourself outside your comfort zone. Like, and it's not like as well, like it's not a bad thing to compete against people who are stronger than you, because like that's going to make you train harder. Like if you're constantly the same thing you say, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room because you're never going to learn anything. Like, and it's like it's kind of the same with this sport. Like if you're just constantly staying novice and inchers, you're never going to progress anywhere because you're limiting yourself too much. Like you're putting a cap on what you can actually do.
Yeah.
Whereas like I just think it's a very like you got to be able to put your ego aside and just be realistic and just like be willing to actually learn from things.
Yeah, because like you went over to Giants on the weekend there, and excluding that Ireland's a few years ago, you haven't had yoke in competition since then.
Of once.
Since then,
350.
Was it
that was here?
Oh, the servers.
350. Yeah,
The first servers cup, I think.
No, it was. I think it was during the. No, it wasn't the first one. It was during the COVID. Remember when you were allowed to have competition? It was a few weeks before Ireland's 2020.
Okay, right.
Ray Foley was here.
Was there a yoke in that? Yeah.
Yeah, there was.
Okay,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you've done yoke.
That was 350. Yeah, that was the heaviest I'd ever done. Like.
And that actually was the heaviest you had ever gone
Never won heavy
before Giants life, which was
Yeah.
460.
They say it's 450 was like 462, and the car is horrible because you pick it up and starts wobbling all around the place, so it's not like a regular yoke. So
Yeah, so you could easily have said before that comp, I've never done that yoke.
no,
I've never been close to it. I'm not going
Yeah,
to go.
yeah, but like, what's the point of that? Like, it's
Nothing to gain from not going.
no, and I mean, it was doing that car walk was a complete fucking shock to my system. I mean, like, I remember afterwards sitting out the back, like, and I was mentally and physically fucked. Like, I was almost just like I felt like I shouldn't compete anymore. I was that fucked. Like, but then I took like the heavy dose pre-workout and just got on with it. Like, you know,
And you got your headphones on.
You got headphones on and then just like got into it. Like, but it kind of reminds me of like when I was over at UK's last year, and like with UK's you got the two groups, and on the Conan's wheel, the first group were really struggling with the Conan's wheel. I remember like Gav Bilton sat down beside me and he was like, you know, don't fucking pay attention to all that and all this. Like, you know, you go out there, you pride for yourself, and like, you know, this is strongman. It's supposed to be fucking heavy, so don't be going out there bitching that like the weight's too heavy and all that, because like it's in the name of the sport, strongman. Like same as like strongwoman. Like it's these things. It's supposed to be hard. Like, so it kind of like it blows my mind when you get people like, oh no, I don't want to do that. That's gonna be too heavy. I'm just like, what? Like go to CrossFit if that's the case. Like, if you don't be doing things that's heavy. Go.
Fairly flipping heavy these days.
Yeah, I know,
Like,
but like
so,
it's just like I don't understand where people are like that. Where it's just like they just want to like stay within their fucking comfort zones and stuff, like, and it's kind of unfair on other athletes who are actually trying to progress in those divisions, because like they're seeing you just going in and just like annihilating it over and over again, and then it's just like that can actually kind of put them down. Like, so it's just don't be afraid to kind of like step up.
You're only hindering yourself, really, aren't you, by staying in the lower level of comps?
Yeah,
Like the idea should be to be moving up all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Yeah, like 100%. Like you've never had an issue with this, in fairness. Like
No.
you done the first timers out in Cilléin, and then you kind of just went into open comps.
Yeah.
That's all there was.
That's all there was. Yeah.
And you went straight into Ireland's Strongest Woman because it was the only thing that there was, really,
Yeah.
isn't it?
I think I know we've talked about it before. Like, it's just I don't know whether with like a lot of things, is it that whole social media aspect of things? You know, like, oh, you want to be able to have this post to say, oh, I won, or I came top 3, rather than actually doing it for the love of the sport, which is actually, you know, competing and getting better. And again, I totally get that people are nervous and they think, oh wow, you know, I haven't touched a dumbbell. Like I'd done no dumbbell training. No, I know I've got experience behind me for everything else, but I've done no dumbbell part since last year. Never touched a dumbbell.
Up to last year, you had never had a dumbbell in competition.
And we kept looking at Glenn's dumbbell going, fuck.
They're big.
They're big.
They're
Like
fucking big.
even the monster dumbbell
Yeah.
here. And I was like, sham, how am I supposed to do that?
Yeah.
Like, you know, but we went out there and it was actually grand. So I think it's embracing that fear. You know, you can be as afraid of something, but if you're constantly fearing it, you're never going to get anywhere.
No, yeah.
Do you remember last week? I don't know if it was on the podcast or before the podcast. We spoke about how Ayshea was failing something one day over and over again. And we couldn't remember what lift it was.
It was everything. It was just fucking everything.
Everything.
It was just so So it was like she was like 3 months, 3-4 months. I remember just like seeing Ayshea rolling around on the floor with the fucking foam roller and slicker, and just like, oh, everything hurts. I can't move and all this. Like, and I was genuinely like worried because like, is this actually her fucking career over? And then it was like 4 weeks before Ireland's. I think it was like a farmer's walk, and you just sprinted down the fucking line. And I was just like, how heavy is that? And she was just like, oh, it's just competition weight. And I was just like, fuck you.
But I remember her last year as well, before that dumbbell. It was one of our dumbbells. It was like 40 kilos. The comp weight was 40, it was 40 odd kilos, or 42 or something.
Yeah.
And she just kept failing it over and over again. And I remember looking at you, and she was fucking ripping. Like, I was like, she's just going to destroy this on the day of the competition, isn't she?
Yeah.
And like, she failed comp weight over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And like, most people would have quit at that stage. And then on the day, you went out and done 4 or 5 reps of it.
Yeah.
At the comp. You know, it's just the perseverance.
Yeah.
It's not allowing yourself to say, oh, I failed that now and that's me done. I can't do that comp.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to fail it on the day because I can't do it in training. Mary was the same, failed it over and over and over again. And then eventually when you started getting it, it was snapping. And you'd get it for a while and then you'd go backwards again for some reason.
But I think that's the thing as well. It's like, it's the challenge.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared for the challenge. And if you're not prepared for the challenge and all you want to do is shoot fish in a barrel, we've said about this before, being, was it a big fish in a small pond?
Yeah.
Like, at some point, even if you think that all your friends and family are going, Jesus, you're great, at some point they're going to go, fucking hell, like, you're still doing, you're not actually pushing yourself. You're beating people who are not, you're not putting yourself out your comfort zone. It becomes old socks, like, it really does. So,
and if you get out of your comfort zone too and jump into comps that are scary, you get better fast.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I always go back to the whole, the big one where I was winning all around me in powerlifting. And I got into strongwoman. We went and did the log deadlifts, the European log deadlifts over in the O2. And we were in there against, I think there was Donna, Andrea, the Olga, Lydia, Sunny B. They were all of who were some of the best strongwomen in the world. We didn't really know these people. We knew they were good. We didn't know who they were. Andrea was very new, actually. I think it was only like a second or third comp.
Yeah, we had no idea who we actually walked down behind her down the road.
Yeah.
Like, geez, this one's fucking massive.
As in a good way.
In a good way. Like, this one looks strong. Like,
shoulders were strong and everything.
And next thing, she was at the comp. We had no idea who she was. Like, it's Andrea Thompson.
And we went into that comp. There was, there was me, Olivia, Karen, and what's your one's name? Ursula. So 4 of us. Yeah, it was only 4 of us, wasn't it?
Oh, she's not listening to this.
Well, no, I'm brain fog, so it doesn't matter. So 4 of us just rocked over, not a fucking clue. Rolled in, and I think I came 7th for that. And I pulled it over 200 kilos, and I think I log pressed at 77 or something 75.
Like that, yeah.
They weren't feeble numbers for that time, but I came 7th, and that for me was like, I could have actually gone, oh, well, I'm not going to do this again. Sure, I'm used to winning. I should be winning all the time. But what it made me go is
powerlifting.
But what it made me say was, oh, right, okay, now I've seen what these women can do. I want to do that. I want to be not 7th the next time. I want to be further up the chain.
Yeah.
So people, I think, need to look at it from that perspective instead of just going, oh, I'm just going to, this is more comfortable for me. I'm not ready. Kayla, her first competition was against me, Ireland's strongest woman.
Yeah.
So do you know what I mean?
She was supposed to do the novices, and then I think a few weeks out, she just said, fuck it, I'll hop into the open, see what happens.
Yeah.
Best attitude to have.
Perfect. Yeah, and she's flying at the moment as well, like, and, it's through throwing yourself into them hard situations, like.
Yeah.
That's how you get better.
Yeah. Again, even like when I started, there was no novice intros or juniors.
No.
Just opens, like. But I feel like it probably benefited me more in the long run doing it that way, because I was constantly just going against like some of the best in the country. So I just I knew like I was at a disadvantage, but that made me want to beat them even more, because like I was like, I'm so much younger and smaller than most of them that like if I can even beat a couple of them, then I know that's kind of putting me in a good kind of situation with it, like
going forward
and stuff. Like
absolutely.
I feel like you got to have perspective about it as well, like because like let's say if you jump into a competition that's like heavier than you've ever done, and like like you may, and as well like even if you don't have enough prep for it, and like let's say if you come like fucking like 9th out of 10 people, that's still really fucking good for your first show, like, especially if you like didn't zero out anything, like you managed to actually score points in every single event. Like that's very good progress to have, like, and that should motivate you more. Is like if you know you can do that with that much practice, you know what to expect going forward. So like there's no reason why you can't come up like in the top end of it. Like.
Absolutely, and it's just chipping away bit by bit, isn't it?
Did you tell me as well in your first competition you zeroed?
Oh man, I came dead last first of all out of 16 down in Cork at a novice comp. They call it novices, but like Pow Dwyer was competing, Sean O'Hagan. Yeah, it wasn't really what you call a novice now. No. Glenn had like his novices. If you don't win Ireland's Strongest Man or you don't win one of his comps, which we all know are very heavy, you're a novice. So, which again, it's totally different to what we would consider novices now. But yeah, like I think it came last in the truck pull, which was like an arm over arm. I zeroed the log. I think I loaded like 2 stones or 1 stone. No, 2 or 3. No, I think I might have loaded 3 stones, but like it was like an 85, 100, and like a 115. And then I couldn't get like the 130, which is not that heavy now. Like
It's the women's run.
Yeah, especially with the women's run. Yeah, absolutely. I might have zeroed something else as well. I probably zeroed the fucking deadlift because I was crap at deadlifting too. But yeah, like I was awful. Like I was absolutely terrible. But year on year, I got a lot better.
Yeah.
And I just worked really hard. And I, again, like that, you'd be, these 3 lads ahead of me are only a couple of points ahead. There's only a few seconds in these events here and there. I can catch them. So I'd work really hard. And year by year, I started overtaking these people until I was, getting into a good position. Like, whereas in the 110s, 105s, I would have been up there. Like, but it was zeroing stuff, being really shit and going, I'm close. I cleaned that log. I think it was like 100 or 110, the opener, like with the max log. I was like, I cleaned it. Now I just have to
press
it.
Yeah.
So it's baby steps. Yeah, we're getting there. There. And I would take them little wins all the time, and just go back to the drawing board with the very limited amount of kit I had, and just get stronger. And eventually you kind of get there. I would love to have walked into this gym when I was starting strongman.
Yeah,
it would have been like a dream come true. Like, even if I had a quarter of the kit that we had now, and just a few lads to train with on a regular basis, oh my fucking God. Perfect. It would have been unbelievable. Like, whereas I spoke earlier about how it was totally different. God, it's if I could go back in time and train on this kit, my God, it would have been unbelievable. Like, and again, to have regular training partners would have been a big thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, anyway, getting off topic there. Yeah, it was just chipping away, year on year. And there was no prospect of me being a good strongman in them early days.
I think just one of the points as well is if you have weak events, and I think it's to understand that there are very, very few athletes that are strong in every event or strong in every area. Like, I know my overhead is my weakest, and I work really hard. And I also know that if it's when whatever the overhead is going to be in competition, is that we have to make the most of what I can do.
Yes.
And then be more and really work hard as well on the other events I know that I can do really well on.
Yeah.
So if there was a max overhead versus deadlift for reps, I'm just going to do what I can to get the points I can. But I know that the deadlift for reps is the one that's going to be.
Every time you've gone into an international competition ever, your overhead is your weak event.
Absolutely.
And you know what, on a national level, okay, you are strong overhead. But at international, whether it's tested or non-tested,
I'm weak
you're
as
not
piss.
strong at overhead.
Yeah.
So we that going into every. So, but you could say, I'm not going to do them. I'll just stick with Ireland's and keep winning that.
Absolutely,
But where would that have gotten you? You have no titles, no international titles.
Absolutely. So, and it just goes to show that when I won ISG in 21, my overhead actually wasn't bad for the Masters, but still, it was everything else. If I had really just gone, oh my God, and kept thinking about my overhead being my weak event, and not going, okay, it's a weak event, but it's not going to stop me. And I think that's what people have to look at. So if your weak event, and I fucking hate it as a term, is your deadlift, you're going to do the best that you can for that event on the day, and really push the other ones.
Yeah. And you would have been similar, even at national level. Like, your overhead is your weaker event, and that going in, that it's probably where people are going to take some points off you. Now, that's how it has been. I think we're turning a corner now, in fairness, but that's always been the way it is. Like, but and again, you could have said, "No, fuck dumbbell. No, I'm not good at dumbbell. I'm not going to do this comp."
Yeah, but
and people
fuck that.
They wouldn't have got chain. And people they are selective.
And what happens then when you do it? You actually get better at the bloody thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's with practice, you're gonna get better at it.
Who'd have thought?
Oh wow! I'm training for this event and I'm getting better at it.
Yeah, and that leads me into kind of it's still on the same topic, and I don't know what is going on this year, right? But it's something I do want to talk about, because I was really disappointed when I seen it. Around the same day, might have been the same day or a day apart, Matt McKeegan announced the list for Ireland's Strongest Woman of competitors, and we were doing the list for the natural Ireland's Strongest Man and Woman. And I think he only has 16 or 18 women.
I think,
and I think we only have 17 women now in INSF.
It's a bit of a cross.
Different categories, is it?
between all the categories, and there's some crossover there. So there's probably only 26 women in total doing what are the two biggest national events of the year for women. And for me, I found it massively disappointing. Like, I'm not saying all these women are hiding because it's a weak event or whatever's going on. There could be other things going on, but like, I do think there are so much more strong women, and I don't mean like strong women as in doing the sport, like women who are really strong enough, and are they're strong ass females, you know, out there that could be competing in these competitions. And I think if the women don't start getting behind these events, there's some of them, like, I think they're doing other comps, and I'm like, why aren't you doing either your national event, either of them, or both of them? Like,
both of them,
even either of them would be perfectly fine, because what you're going to have is promoters not wanting to do stuff for the women eventually. And like, I hate to say that, but like, that's the way it's going to end up going. There has to be 50, 60, 70 strong women in the country, I think, between all the stuff you ran last year. And a lot of them are beginners. I get that.
I think,
but I could probably name 10 people that could be doing these comps that aren't doing it.
I think,
and again, like, I don't know what it is. Is it the coaches that aren't pushing them? Is it the coaches that are holding people back? What is going, like, I don't know. Do you have any idea what's going on?
One of the things, the more we spoke about it, it's kind of, the more I'm thinking about it, and actually from the conversation we've just had there earlier, is when you look at the names who are in strongman at the moment, right? You've got the group of us that have been doing it for a number of years, and we're probably now in the bracket of where we're being select with the competitions we're doing, right? Yeah. And then you have the rest. So you have the rest of the people who are very new still, who are coming through. Which is probably why then we've got this divide of, like, we're saying how, I know you said to me during the week, like, Strong Woman Ireland, we've done a huge amount of work and we've really pushed out there. I think what we're seeing is, what I'm hoping we're seeing is just a blip on the tide of the newer, the novice, the more beginner people who are very strong, because we've seen them. We've seen what they've done. Like you said yourself, how many people there overhead pressed over 70 kilos in a couple of our comps?
There was a few of them, like, and they're not doing the national events. So I'm just like,
the national event for ISW is 77.5 overhead. What's INSF on? It's a max axle.
It's a max axle,
right?
So it'll be starting
so exactly. So there's no reason, in one respect, for people to go, oh, that's way too heavy, because if the opens is 77.5 at ISW and we had under opens that were probably kilos, like, there's no reason why that people should look at that and go, that's too heavy. Okay, the opens for ISW is quite heavy,
but it should be,
and it should be. It's an international qualifier, exactly. And I know that one of the girls competing has only done novice competition, so fair play to her for stepping up to plate. So I think that's Lucy. It's yeah. So what I think we might be seeing, and what I'm hoping, all we are seeing, is that this year is just a blip, and that over the course of the year, and that people are understanding of next year that there's national qualifiers, national titles there, that they're more than capable of being able to go in for. And if it's, again, comfort zone, we're speaking about this all the time.
Get over it.
Get out the comfort zone. Come in and do your national title and see where you place for that year. And it gives you then something. I'm not going to be here forever doing, like, Ireland's Strongest Woman. But do you know what I mean? Like, the Marys and the Marias, we're all moving forward as well. And there's no reason why, if people are thinking, oh, I'm never going to be as good as that. And I've always had this conversation. I never thought I was going to be as good as what I was. Yeah. I didn't know 10 years ago.
You didn't either.
No, absolutely not. 10 years ago, and I'll always say this, and I keep going back to it. If somebody had said to me 10 years ago, you're going to be where you are now today, I'd laugh in their face.
Same, yeah.
It was never on my radar. It was not strongman and strongwoman, something I'd never even heard of. So for someone to be out there and go, okay, well, I'll never be this, I'll never be that, is bollocks. If you have a love for something and you want to try and progress, you need to put yourself out of that comfort zone. Yeah. And, like, it's too late now for this year. Who's in it? Who's in it? I would really hope that the other competitions that come up during the year, that people are select for that. They use that to get their experience, and that next year we do see the numbers, the higher numbers for the national competitions. And also, like, for people maybe going, well, I don't, even if I did qualify for OSG, I'm not, like, that's not the way to be thinking at all. It's like we said there earlier, it's little steps, it's baby steps and baby steps.
It's like these people could go, say that they might be looking at you I'll just go down through the list. Like you, Jade, Sarah Reynolds, Mary. You're all coming back this year. Gail, Masters. Everyone's kind of there to defend their titles. The women that are probably, they could be looking at you going, I can't beat them. Why am I going to do it?
Yeah.
It's not the right attitude.
No.
Go against them.
Get the experience.
Where
Get the
see where you are.
But see how far off you are.
Yeah.
Do that fucking medley and see whatever time Ayshea finishes, or Mary, or Jade, or whoever it is, or Gail. See what time they do it in, and see how close you are.
Do you know what the funniest
are
thing-
you 10
right.
seconds off? Maybe you just take 2 seconds off each implement, and you're that much closer next year.
So
Next year, beat
to
them.
give an example, right? And this really irked me for a while there, is that people would think that I was unbeatable. Like there's this whole thing, Aisha's never been beaten. Ayshea has been beaten, right? In events. And last year, or the year before, Kayla bet me on the arm over arm in Wales at Europe's.
Yeah.
Right? She was only between third or fourth competition. Sharon came back from injury, went into the Opens at INSF last year and beat me at the throwing bag.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to look at these things and go, like, it's not that these people
one's
unbeatable.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like there has been times where myself or whoever, we may have whitewashed and won every event, but that's not always going to be the case.
No.
And I think people need to really understand that it's like, I'm shite at sandbag.
No, that's
Max.
most you don't.
We know that. Excuse me, it's actually better now. But anyway, because I don't, basically because it's not a pleasant thing for me. But if anyone was looking at that, they could look at me and go, okay, well, we know I really love medleys, so I could beat her on a medley if my deadlift comes up better. So it's about looking at that opposition. If you really want to win, is looking and going, how far off am I from that person?
Yeah.
And you might actually shock yourself. Just because I have this huge deadlift and, I've got huge stones, I'm statically very strong and I can pull shit out of the water. I'm good at moving events when it comes to farmers and yoke, right? Yeah. Does not mean that I can't be beaten. Yeah. And I think that needs to be wildly understood by people. Same for Mary, same for Jade, same for Gail. We're not unbeatable.
No, definitely not.
And you need to put yourself against these people the same as we put ourselves against people internationally and go, okay, where do I stand against these people? And unless you do that, you're never gonna find out. You're always just gonna be tipping away.
I think as well, like a lot of novice intermediates would actually be surprised in how much in common they would have had with us when we were at their level. Like when we were kind of first starting off and everything. Like I know even with myself, like I was definitely like a very shy and anxious person and didn't really have much kind of like belief in what I was doing, but it was just after each competition going up against like the best in the country and being like way out of my depth that I started to realize actually how much potential was there. Yeah. Like obviously you're not going to be there when you started, but like if you do, especially because like a lot of people kind of forget that like in strength sports you don't hit your best until like mid late 30s. So like if you're somebody who's in your early mid 20s, like don't be like, oh, I'm not there now, I'm never going to fucking get there. Like it's a very poor mindset of to have towards yourself. Like especially like it's not like we're soccer where you have like an 18, 19-year-old come in and just like start playing with the Premier League or something like that.
Different.
Yeah, it's totally different. Like so, I mean, like just don't be looking at where you are now. Look at where you could be going forward. Like, and you're never going to know where you could be if you're still like staying within your comfort zone.
And for anyone that doesn't know, Cilléin got off to a terrible start in strongman.
Yeah.
So we ran it the first comp he ever did. This is back when strongman was in fields.
Yeah.
It was a wet, rainy day. There was a bit of a dip in the middle of the field. Cilléin's going off with his farmers, lands on his hole.
So we said like somersaulted over the farmers.
Yeah,
I don't know how. I need to find the video. Like,
yeah,
I still have the video.
He literally like creeled himself. Yeah. The weights came off the farmers, and now it was a absolute first timers comp.
Yeah.
And we put it down to like not equipment failure, but like field failure. So we let him go again in the other lane, I think.
Yeah.
And but like.
I won the events then after.
Did you win the event then? Yeah? But then you only came third overall, is that right?
Third overall.
Third overall in the 105 first timers category.
So
like that's like people would say Cilléin's competing internationally now. He must have fucking blitzed the first timers. He must have blitzed novices. Not at all. No. Totally the opposite.
Yeah.
And you landed on your hole.
Yeah. So I think like Aidan Kennedy beat me, and he's like. I think Aidan's probably old enough to be my dad, like.
Right.
I think Aidan's about my age.
Yeah.
You have to clip that.
Old man strong.
I said it because Aidan texted me about saying, well done, Giants Live. And I was like, well, when I win World's Strongest Man, you tell everybody you beat me twice.
Oh, he bet you twice, too.
Yeah, he did me twice.
And did Garrett Quinn
come
second?
Yeah. But I even remember looking back in the videos that day. I remember I tried to pick up the 100-kilo stone like 4 times, and it just kept falling out all over me. I eventually got it after a couple of goes, like, but it was just like looking back, I was just even looking at my deadlift form and everything. It was so like terrible. Like knowing from where I am now, it's just like it was like watching somebody learn how to walk again. Like it was very, very messy and stuff, and like. Comparing like those videos now to kind of where I am now was kind of like whoa, crazy. Like again, but like if you told me back then, I would have been going Giants Live and competing at a high level. I would not have believed anybody at that. Like not a chance.
And
like,
do you know what's funny actually, and people won't realize this, was Giants Live even a thing back then?
It was, but not.
They were still using car parks and stuff.
Yeah, I think so. Like
they were in their very early stages, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
or maybe like beginning of like a football stadium tour. One of the first Europes, was that like in a football stadium? Was that around that time?
Look, see, Eddie Hall done is because Europe's Lawrence Shawley won in 2016, and that was in a stadium.
So they were just
Eddie
getting
Hall,
going.
and Eddie Hall pulled the deadlift.
So that's probably one of the only reasons.
That's when he dropped the deadlift, isn't it?
No, that was a few years before that.
That was on the field.
2014.
That wasn't in an arena.
In the Sheffield football pitch. That was.
Okay, so they were just getting going.
They were just getting going.
Essentially, like at their like. People getting in strongman now, like they even realize that when ye started, that these massive Giants Live tours, these indoor arenas weren't even there at the time. They were another level back again. Like
so, maybe even like Britain's Strongest Man used to be like regularly in a car park, and you'd have like Terry Hollins, Lawrence Shawley, like the best of the best out there, and like competing in front of like a handful of people in fucking piss and rain, like, and it's just.
It's mad to see how much the sport has grown at all levels.
Absolutely fucking crazy.
Like even what we did that time running the first timers out in Cilléin there, like we wouldn't dream of using a field like that now for a comp.
I remember
I wouldn't.
I remember actually on the way to that competition, and we stopped off at the garage, and there was some fella, and he comes up, and he's like, "Are you heading to that strongman competition?" We're like, "Yeah, we are." He's like, "Don't fucking go down to it. It's just in some fucking fields. There's not even cover or anything." And I was like panicking. I was like, "Oh, what the fuck have I got myself into?" And like Richard was like, "No, fuck it, just do it. You'll be grand. Don't be fucking listening to that fool." Like, going down in a fucking equestrian.
Any idea who it was?
No. Like he was shook. To be honest, like this guy was actually shook. He wasn't that big. I say he probably would have been under 105s, like, but when he found out it was in the field, he was remember. Fuck that, man.
I'm trying to remember who that was. I remember them coming for weigh-in.
I don't remember.
I remember they coming for weigh-in, and I remember this. I remember. I can't tell you who it was, but I remember this.
Funny. That comp started a lot of people off. You, Matt McKeegan,
Matt McKeegan as well,
Aidan Kennedy. There was loads of people that done that as their first comp.
No, it was great. It was a good day.
But I remember Riverfest that year.
Oh my god. The muck of it.
The weight for height was a kettlebell, and they had to. I remember
dig it out of the ground every time
because it was landing.
In a puddle of muck.
Yeah, it was rotten. And doing the sandbag medley across that. Yeah.
My first Ireland's Strongest Man juniors was Richard was there.
Yeah.
That was a great lineup as well. Brian Moore, Eamon Harford, David Jones, Sean O'Hagan, Matt McCoy. Tough. Strongest junior lineup. I came like second last. Couldn't pick up the hooseful. Like I was a crap strongman, lads. In case you haven't picked that up by now. There was cow shit in the middle of the lane we were flipping tires on.
Oh,
I remember like flipping the tire at one stage, and as I went over, I was looking at it going, "There's shit where I need to put my face."
Did you do it?
I did it, yeah. I but sure you couldn't you say to Glenn, "Look, like the cow shit there, flip it, flip it or leave." It's like. Now at the time, like we were all young, quite afraid of him. Like it's like, ooh,
do it.
Yeah, just do it. Yeah, God, I think Joshua McCabe was there. Didn't you remember him?
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I think he put like 365 as a junior raw.
Jesus Christ.
Ryan Borland. I mean, it was the strongest junior lineup I've ever come across. I don't think there's ever been one since. In fairness, it was insane. It was insane. Yeah, and I was crap. But yeah, that's it was out in the field and flipping in shite and. Holes in the ground, and it was.
So, ladies, we'll just pull this back a little bit.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, yeah.
They've gone down memory lane again here now. I think just what the initial thing was is your
dissatisfaction. Yeah, it's just sad. It really does sadden me to see because we've 75 entries for the INSF. which is absolutely brilliant. That makes me so happy to see the natural side of the sport growing. That's exactly what we want.
How many you said?
75.
75. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Holy
yeah.
shit.
Thank God we said we run it over 2 days.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah. Enters.
Really?
18 or 17. I can't remember what it is. Yeah. The men's lineups are massive. There's like in the 105s, 80s, 90s opens, there's over 10 in each, I think.
Jesus.
We have 7 junior men.
Really? Wow. Yeah.
It's really good, isn't it? Like it's really good. That's all brilliant. It's all really positive. But then the women's side of it, it's just it saddened me. It really does, because there's been so much work done by the Strong Women Ireland crew as well. Yeah. And like I hope, like you said, it's just a blip.
I think, I really.
And just let me say as well, to the women that haven't competed at this level before, between naturals and the original ISW, fair play to you. There's women there that haven't competed at this level before and they're jumping into it. And like hats off to you for just throwing yourselves into the deep end, because that's exactly what we want people to do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's very encouraging seeing the women at it as well. Like,
absolutely,
so very encouraging.
Sorry, Ayshea, I cut into what you were going to say there.
No, I think I do. I think that what we will see is a rise. We've seen a consistency the past couple of years. Okay, maybe in a few more numbers there last year, but it's still more than it was 3 years ago. Yeah. And that's, I'm just looking at, and the more I think about it, I'm just thinking maybe it's that just a little bit of a growth period where Strong Women Ireland, we push it again as much as we can this year. And, you know, there'll be girls who are getting more comp experience, and like some savage strong women out there.
Yeah,
like holy cow. Like, do you know what I mean? There really is some savage strong women and juniors. And that they stick with it. And that this time next year, we're not having this conversation that we have like 25, 30 women for the same numbers we were seeing for like some of the strong women competitions,
like the leagues
and stuff.
Well, that would be something else. Like,
and I think that we just have to keep doing, you know, the more knowledge and the more information we can put out there and support and encouragement, that we will get the numbers next year.
And like if it's any way of help, like if these women are lost and not knowing what to do, or they have questions, like shoot any of the three of us a message. Like we're always going to be happy to help people.
And even Strong Women Ireland,
on the right track. Strong Women Ireland,
that's what we're there for. We created that so that there was this environment for the women of Ireland to be able to come to and go, okay, we're all supporting each other, because there was for a time that whole the patriarchy, or it's all lads. Like, no, the lads were the ones that actually had the faith in us in the beginning to start this, and now we're taking over the helm and pushing it forward. So we're there to help, and we're there to encourage and drive it forward. But you were the driving force. I always said this yourself and Peter O'Connor, Dave Warner in the beginning. You were the three that pushed for Ireland Strongest Women to happen.
We started it.
You started
back up again from whenever it had stopped.
Exactly, from
years,
whenever
it was,
years and years ago. And like you're coaching, Cilléin, you're coaching women, I think, aren't you?
Yeah.
But you've got some powerlifting females as well.
Yeah.
So like we're all here. Drop us a message. But Strong Women Ireland as well. You can give them a shout, and we'll be more than happy to try and help.
Yeah, like even if it's something as simple as like you don't have this bit of kit, what alternative? Like any of us would be happy to answer them questions or to help you out, like or lead you in the directions of comps or gyms that have kit, or you know, we all have links out there. We all know people. It's a small community. In fairness, nearly everybody knows someone in it that can lead you in the right direction. If you're from a certain area, you're like, where do I go? Like, again, one of us will contact someone that's close by, and they might lead us to somewhere closer again. And,
I mean, like we all want to help as much as we can. Like
we're all here because we want to see the sport grow. Like we're all very lucky. Like our lives revolve around it, and you know, we get to travel for it, and we get to go to comps, and we've met loads of people and have friends out of it. You know, so it'd be nice to see that growing, passing on, and to see the sport growing and spreading. Yeah, like we're quite lucky. Like as someone who's not competing at the moment because I'm fucking broken, like I'm still lucky to be involved in the sport.
Absolutely,
heavily. Like it's still my life revolves around it. Like so, we just want to see it get better, and that's where the disappointment comes from. I think for me, because like it's so sad looking at the numbers. I was like, oh God, but hopefully, like you said, blip in the road, and away we go again next year.
Yep.
Anyone?
No, I think that's probably
that's all our topics covered.
An hour, so.
I definitely done a lot of rambling on there, like, but I think that's it, folks. If you have any topics you want us to talk about, please let us know. We're actually going to put our heads together now after this podcast and talk guests. So if you have any guests you want us to talk to, again, let us know, and we're more than happy to contact people, reach out to people. If you think there's someone that'd be cool or interesting to chat to, that's exactly what we want to do as well. So it'll be a bit intimidating for them, I think, coming on with the three of us ready to interview them, full of questions. But no, it should be fun. It should be fun. Yeah, that's it. Like, share, follow, all that crack. Take it easy, folks.
All right, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.